Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Zarek. I'm the Chief Data Officer for the Department of Economic Development. So we're going to do this training this morning to teach you how to manage your rural broadband grants in our grant management system called Amplifund. I'll turn it over to Dan, and we'll leave some time for questions at the end.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks for joining everyone today. Congratulations on the award, and also thank you for all the good work that you're doing. Today, what we wanted to do is go through the steps that are required for reporting on this broadband award, and kind of walk through how you're going to be performing that reporting within Amplifund. So today, what we're going to be doing is kind of going through an overview of the different steps that you can take for reporting and the required actions, the actions and the reports and the information that's required to provide back to DED regarding your project. And then, as Jennifer mentioned, we are going to have some time to go through any questions. Also, on Zoom, there's a chat feature, so if you don't have to wait until the end to ask questions, and if you feel comfortable utilizing the chat feature, please go ahead and do that in order to ask any questions you may have during the presentation. Also, this session is being recorded, and a recording will be provided after the fact, and also there will be additional user guides and documentation with screenshots that walk you through the process of how to perform the specific actions within the system. So this is a great chance to see the walkthrough of how the reporting takes place within Amplifund, and then you will be furnished with a recording of today's session, as well as some desk guides and some user documentation to assist you with that as well. So as we get started, I just wanted to present on a slide here just an overview of some of the actions that we'll be performing and that we'll be taking within the system. And I'll be pointing out which of those actions are required actions as well. So at this point, most of you, if not all of you, should have received, I think you actually all did, a email invitation into Amplifund indicating that your award has been activated. And that you can log in and view your award. So we'll look at the initial steps of getting in. One of the important pieces of the system is managing and ensuring that you have the correct personnel involved and with access into the system that need to be managing the award and completing some of these actions. So if there's anyone else at your organization that you feel you need to get involved, that you want to complete some of these steps, that we're going to go through the process of how to add those users into the system and invite them in. In addition to that, I'll go through some of the basics of how you can view the award and view some key award details within Amplifund. And then also one of the pieces that you'll be required to do is on the award record itself, you'll be required to indicate who from your organization is the grant manager. So I'll show you how that gets completed as well. There is a section within Amplifund called the performance plan. And everybody's performance plan has 4 performance plan goals where progress, or in Amplifund they're called achievements, need to be reported against those performance plan goals. So I'll show you where you can access those and how you can report those achievements for your performance plan goals. In addition to that, I'm sure as you all know, there is also a budget within your award record, and you'll be required to enter in your expenses against the budget items within the award. So we'll be going through and showing you how to do that. There is a monthly reporting requirement on this. So I'll be walking through how those reports can be submitted through Amplifund once those expenses and achievements have been entered. And then of course, there are 2 points throughout the project where you'll be submitting reimbursement requests at 60% of project completion and at 100% of project completion. So one of the things that we'll be doing today, and of course you can imagine very important, is how to submit those reimbursement requests once you get to 60 and 100% completion. One of the things that you're going to see today is I'm going to be going through these steps in this specific order. And there's a reason all these steps need to follow in the sequence in terms of the monthly reports and submitting an expense report or a performance achievements report. The steps that we're looking at on this slide of the achievements and the expenses being added is a dependency on being able to submit those monthly reports. So we're going to be going through it in the sequence and in the steps that you'll have to be completing these actions as well. As I mentioned, we'll be going through these steps kind of one by one as we get into the system. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know, and definitely feel free to take advantage of the chat feature. You can chat those during the session, and we'll have time at the end for a question and answer session. The only thing that I wanted to draw our attention to within the slideshow before we actually get into the system itself is kind of the look and the feel of the system and some of the basic navigation elements that I'm going to be utilizing today throughout the demonstration, as well as the navigation elements that you'll be taking advantage of and using as you log into the system and as you begin to complete your reporting. So as we can see here on our screen, number one, the left navigation menu. This is the main point of navigation within your Amplifund account. This is going to take you to the different areas of your system. We're going to be primarily focused within the grant management section and the administration section, but you can feel free to navigate and utilize the other pieces. As I mentioned, primarily what you're going to be utilizing to complete these actions that are required from you from DED, you'll need the grant management section and the admin section. Number two, in the top right-hand corner of your screen is what we call the user navigation menu. It's a drop-down list that features user-specific actions, such as the ability to view your account information, change your password, securely log out, review the terms and conditions that you agreed to upon registering or logging in for the first time. So has some user-specific information in there. You'll be able to see your name at the top right-hand corner of your screen. And finally, the third piece of navigation that's pointed out on the screen is the icon toolbar. The icon toolbar features different items depending on what page that we're on. And a lot of times, as you'll see throughout the demonstration today, those icons allow us to take specific actions. When we're in a certain page and we want to edit it, there's going to be an edit button up there. When we want to create a record or create something, there's going to be a plus button to create something. And one of the unique features of the icon toolbar is that as you're going in, if you just hover your mouse over any one of those icons, then you'll be able to see exactly what the icon does. So those are the three main navigation elements that you'll be looking at today. And I'll do a brief walkthrough as well once we get into Amplifund. So I'm going to transition my screen over to the Amplifund in product portion of today's session. And we're going to get started going through all the different steps and all the different things that have to be completed for reporting back to DED on this award. So when you first log in, you'll be looking at your Amplifund screen, and your Amplifund is going to contain a calendar. What you'll probably start to see as you start moving through the rest of the project period is reminders similar to what we're seeing here on my screen, reminders for different monthly budget and performance reporting. So these reminders are pretty useful, and you'll be able to see on your calendar when you have something that's upcoming. As I mentioned before, three main pieces of navigation. Here we have our left navigation menu. This is going to take us to our different areas within the system. You'll be able to click on any one of these areas to view a list of options. Sometimes there's one option, sometimes there's multiple. So like to actually go in and see your broadband grant, you'll go to the grant management and grants section. I mentioned another key area we'll be looking at today is the administration section. And you'll notice that when I click on the administration icon here, I get several different options, which we'll explore here shortly. So this is our left navigation menu. If you ever wanted to minimize the menu to get a little bit more screen real estate, you can always click on the arrow to hide it. That gives you an icon-only view, which you still have the same options where you can click and you can see from a drop-down what the different areas do. It just gives you a little bit more space here to maneuver. And if you ever wanted to expand it again, you just click the arrow to expand it out. Top right-hand corner here, I mentioned the user navigation, which is going to feature your name. You can click the drop-down and access the different options here. And the icon toolbar, which I mentioned also is on every page. The icons are going to vary based on the page that we're looking at. And one thing we're going to be doing is you'll be able to hover your mouse over any one of the icons and you can see what it does. So if I wasn't sure that this was a print button, I can just kind of hover my mouse over it and it lets me know that that's the print button right there. So those are the main areas of navigation. One of the other items that you'll be able to do, as I mentioned in our overview of action slide, is you may identify other individuals within your organization that require access into Amplifund, and you'll want to get them into Amplifund in order for them to perform specific actions on the award. So when it comes to any of the reporting actions, we want to make sure that we're adding and inviting other users from your organization. And the place where that happens is in this administration section. So let's walk through how to add a user and how to invite that user in. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to access my administration section and I'm going to click here. It's going to provide me with a drop-down that gives me some options. If I go to my system security and click the little drop-down caret here, then it gives me an option to see any users. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click users. That's going to bring me a list of all users that I have here in my account. If I want to add a new user, so if I know that there's somebody else within my organization that I want to provide access to, then we're going to go to our top right-hand corner here in our icon toolbar. And the way that we add a user is by clicking this plus sign. So upon clicking the plus sign, I can now create a new user and go through the process of getting them created and inviting them in. The first thing that you'll see upon user creation here is you'll be able to indicate what kind of email preferences they have. Do they want to receive daily emails or weekly emails? Just because somebody receives daily emails does not mean that they'll receive emails every day, only on the days that they have something assigned to them. A weekly email indicates that they'll receive one email at the beginning of each week with all of their upcoming tasks. Both can be checked too, where somebody can receive emails on the day that they're assigned something and also in the beginning of the week to see everything upcoming. Applicant portal access grants this user the ability to see the application that was submitted. So if you check this box, then that will allow them access into the applicant portal and they'll be able to see the same application that was submitted to receive this award in the first place. Next is the security role. There are a lot of different security role designations, but the most common one and the suggested one for our purposes here is going to be organizational admin, which is going to provide the user with the sufficient privileges to go in and see the award and make whatever changes or edits necessary. In terms of other options when we're creating our user, there's a lot of information here like their name, last name, address, but there's only 3 required data elements to get this user in here. We need to have a first name, a last name, and an email address. And one thing that you'll notice, which is very consistent throughout the product is that anything that has an asterisk indicates that it's required. So I can fill out all this other information like my address information and phone number. However, the only thing I really need to fill out to get a user added here is the first name, last name, and email address. So I'm going to go ahead and create my user. First name, last name, email address. And I'm going to go ahead here and click on create to get my user created. Now, an important thing to note here, and something that I want to point out, is that there are a couple of different things. One is that upon creating a user, the person's username automatically becomes their email address. So when somebody is going to log in, they'll have to use their email address as their username. The second thing I wanted to point out is that just because I've created this user does not mean that this user automatically has access to Amplifund. There's a second step that's required in order to ensure that the user can log in. And that is, the second step that's required is to invite this user in. So one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the step of inviting the user in by clicking on the envelope icon right here. One other thing that I wanted to mention in terms of the required fields here on the user creation page is that when you're creating a user, and I'll just click edit to show you what this looks like. I did mention that, I went into the terms and conditions. I did mention that once you're creating a new user and you're editing that user, that you'll have some required fields there as a dropdown. So when we're looking at those required fields, one of the required fields is track time. So the track time is listed as a required field. However, the track time just automatically defaults to monthly. If you don't have to put anything in there, it's going to default to monthly. So keep that in mind, that you don't have to put anything in there. There's no impact that the track time has on anything. So just keep that in mind as you're going through and as you're entering your user record. So when you're ready to go ahead and enter your user record here, you can go ahead and click on the send invitation icon in the icon toolbar. So just because this user is added, I have not yet sent them an invitation. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the send invitation, the envelope icon, to invite them in. And now this user will receive an email where they're able to create their own unique password and log into their Amplifund account. So just remember, user creation here is a two-step process. We first go into the administration section, go to users, we see our user list, we click on the plus sign, we enter in the relevant details, and then we click on the envelope icon to get them in. So we create the user and then we invite them in order to grant them access. Also, if you wanted to create several users and invite them all in at one time, you can do that. You can create an entire list of users, and then in your icon toolbar here from the users page, you'd be able to click on the envelope icon, and this is going to allow you to invite users in bulk. It is very possible that the first time you log into your account and you go into users, you're not going to see anybody else created in here. So what you have to do in order to get the creation process started, if I want to create a new user, then I go into my plus sign here in the top right-hand corner to create a user. You'll also notice when you're in your users list here that there's going to be a user that's designated as the organizational admin and account owner. So this automatically defaults to whoever the first user that was added in into your account is. And what this is probably going to default to is whoever was listed as the primary contact person on your application. As soon as that application was awarded, then that first user was created and was indicated as the account owner. If you need to go and change the account owner to somebody else, then just add that person as a user by, again, through this menu here, going into your top right-hand corner and clicking on the plus sign to create the new user. Then you'll be able to go into your administration tab and go to license information, where you'll be able to see who the account owner is. In order to change this, you'll be able to edit this page. And once you edit this page, you'll be able to choose any one of the users that you created from a drop-down list in order to indicate who the account owner is. So the account owner, again, it just automatically defaults to whoever the first person that was created in your account is, most likely whoever was listed on the application itself. And then in order to change it, you go to your administration, license information, click edit, go down to account owner, and you'll be able to change it to any new user that you've just added. So once we have our users that have been added in, and once we have we've invited in our new users, or at least verified that we have the correct users that already have permission, let's talk a little bit about how to actually view your award and how you can indicate on that award who the grant manager is. So in order to get that started, I'm going to go again back to my left navigation menu here and go to my grant management section, and I'm going to click on grants. As soon as I click on grants, I have my grant list is going to show up. It's most likely that in yours, you'll just see your one grant program. So you'll click on the name of your award, and here you'll be able to see some details of your award. So what you're going to see here is the name of your award, the name of your organization. You'll be able to scroll down and you'll be able to see key information about your budget. And as you begin to track expenses and as you submit additional invoices, then you'll be able to see here those that information begins to add up and begins to populate in these fields. If you scroll down, there's additional information about everybody's award. And you'll also notice here that you're going to have to indicate who the grant manager is on this award. This is something that DED wants you to do. So in order to open this page up and to edit this page to add in the grant manager, we go to our icon toolbar in the top right-hand corner. I'm going to go and locate the pencil icon here, which is going to allow me to edit this page. So upon editing this page, now I will be able to indicate who the grant manager is from my organization. And as you'll notice, I can't just go ahead and just automatically type in somebody's name. It's a drop-down menu that populates from my users list. So I mentioned previously, we're doing things today in a specific order because if you want to indicate that somebody is the grant manager on here, they have to be added as a user first. So I just added Jane into our account as a user. Now I'm going to select her as the recipient grant manager here. Once you have your recipient grant manager added, go ahead and click on the Save button. And now that change has been locked in. So again, it's important to note that everyone's going to have to add a recipient grant manager to their grant record in order to indicate who from their organization is the grant manager. This award details page is also important here because it provides some key information about some of the key awarded dates and also the awarded amount. And again, we're just looking at a sample and some sample information today. So just keep in mind, none of the information that we're looking at is representative of anyone's actual award. This is just a demo award that was created to show the process. However, the information that we're going to be looking at should be somewhat similar in terms of structure to how the details appear in your Amplifund account. So a couple of the steps that were identified that are required is monthly reporting on expenses and also monthly reporting on achievements. So one of the things that you'll be able to do is you'll be able to view any of your performance plan goals that you have to start entering progress against in order to submit your monthly progress report. So in order to see that those performance plan goals, you'll go into your post-award menu, click on performance, and go to performance plan. So once you are in the performance plan section, then everyone's going to have the same goals that are assigned to them. So you'll be looking at these performance plan goals. If you want to view the information of what's required at any one of these at any point here, then you can click on the name of the goal to view it. There's construction begins, there's total units passed, and then we have our goals to indicate when 60% completion has been attained, as well as 100% completion. So when you're logging in and when you need to start adding progress against any one of these goals, then in order to start adding progress, you'll be able to go to this trophy icon here. Progress in Amplifund is called achievements. So in order to enter your progress, you'll be able to go to achievements. So I'm going to click on this trophy icon and I can start creating my first achievement for this construction begins milestone. So once I click on that construction begins milestone, I'll be able to start adding an achievement. And again, consistency within the system is important. In order to start adding progress and adding an achievement record, I can go to my plus sign here in the top right-hand corner in my icon toolbar, and I can create an achievement against this county broadband, this construction begins milestone goal. So when this has been completed, I can go here and I can indicate and I can say that all permits have been obtained and construction has begun. You can put in any notes that you have. Achievement date is important because remember, we have to submit monthly reports here. So it's important to indicate that with the achievement date when this was accomplished. You'll see later when you're creating your monthly reports, you have to indicate what month you're reporting for. So for example, if I'm creating this for with a September date and I'm trying to send a report for August, then this is not going to be part of my August report because it has a September date on it. So pay close attention to the achievement dates. Let's use that as an example. I'll create an August report here as an example, and I want to indicate that this has been completed. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create this achievement. And now that achievement has been created. If I want to go back to my performance plan to see the other goals, then I'm going to go back here to the performance plan section on that performance plan tab, and I'll be able to choose any one of my other goals. Here I have total units passed. I want to enter in an achievement for total units passed. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the trophy icon here to add an achievement. Remember, this is going to take us to an achievements page where I can begin entering as many achievements as I want. So here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the plus sign to create my achievement. And let's continue on with the example of, of grading and indicating our progress for the month of August here. So number of households within project area passed. This is my total number to be achieved. This is going to be unique per everyone's project, per everyone's award. And you'll be able to indicate then with the achievement date, again, I'll say this is for my August period, how many you've completed in August. Feel free to add in any notes here. And as you're going through this, go ahead and click on the create button to create this achievement. So now my achievement was created for August. The other two performance plan goals that we have here are when the project is 60% complete and when the project has been completed. So I'm not going to add in this goal yet because I'm going to pretend like my project is not yet complete. I just want to do some monthly reporting here for the month of August. So I added in my achievements here for those performance plan goals. And what I'm going to do now is now I want to submit this report to DED. So I've added those in the performance plan section. Let's talk about how to create that monthly report that needs to be submitted. And as you're going in and as you're looking at your performance plans or your budgets, some of the information may not be configured there already. It will be configured. If it's not in there yet, it will be configured by DED shortly. In order to go ahead and create a report, then we're going to go and I'm going to click on the post award drop-down menu. I'm going to click the management button and go to reporting periods. So here, when we're in the reporting periods section, I'm going to be able to create a monthly reporting period for my achievements. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the plus sign. So in order to create my first monthly report, it's going to ask me, what kind of report am I submitting? Am I submitting an expenses report or am I submitting an achievements report? So because we're just utilizing the example of an achievements report for right now, I'm going to go ahead and check the box for achievements report. And now it's going to ask me what time period I'd like to submit a report for. So I mentioned, we have to submit our reports monthly. We're going to have to go ahead and we're going to have to click on the drop down and choose the month you want to submit a report for. So since we're utilizing the example of submitting an August report, I'm going to go ahead and click the August timeframe here, and I'm going to click Save. And that is going to create my August Achievements Progress Report. So you'll note that upon creating the reporting period, checking the achievement box, selecting from the drop-down menu the interval for which you want to report, you'll be able to see this is essentially what the report is that you'll be submitting to DED. You'll see the date range for the report. It tells me out of the 4 goals that I have, how many goals do I have with no achievements? Just in case you forgot to enter one, you can always click on this button and it'll take you back to the performance plan. If you scroll down, it gives you a space where you can enter comments. You can also see which performance goals actually have progress that have been tracked against it. And you can see the dates down here as well. So if you know that maybe you are at 60%, you'll be able to add an achievement there. If, let's say, you didn't want to add something for total units passed, and you see the number that there has been, you'll be able to verify that here, and you'll be able to click on the name of the goal to go back to it. If you want to just create this report and continue to work on it, and you're not ready to submit it to DED just yet, then that's fine. You can go ahead and click on Save. And that saves the report, but does not submit the report. Once you are ready to submit this to DED, and you're ready to make this final and to submit your monthly report out to DED staff, you can go ahead and click the Close button, which submits this report to DED. And you'll notice that when you click Close here, you get this reminder that once you close out this report and you submit it, then no changes can be made to the report. So before clicking the Close or the Submit button, ensure that anything you're entering in here is final, at least for that month. Once you're ready, you can go ahead and click on Close. And you'll see that the status here is updated to closed. And now DED receives an email notification that your monthly report for August has been submitted, and they'll be able to review it. And you'll be able to see here that you submitted it. And then when you go, if you click on that reporting periods tab, then you'll be able to see here, and you'll be able to keep track of all the months that you've created a reporting period for, and you'll be able to see the status for all of them. So if there's something wrong with one of your monthly reports, or if it's not complete, it might get rejected, and you would see if it's in a rejected status. If you create a report and it has not yet been submitted, then it'll just be with the status designation of open here. And once it's been closed out and submitted, it'll show up with the designation of closed. So a couple of important things to remember as we are going through and as we're reporting our achievements for these performance plan goals is, again, the place where we accessed our achievements and we were able to enter our progress. Post-award drop-down menu, performance plan. That gives us a view to all of our different performance plan goals. And then when you want to track achievements against these and when you want to report your progress, you click on the trophy icon. You'll be able to see any achievements that have already been entered, but if it's your first time entering an achievement, there'll probably be nothing listed here. And then in order to get started entering in an achievement, you'll go and you'll click on the plus sign here to add in a new achievement. So for example, if I was ready to do some of my September reporting, and I wanted to just get started on the total units passed for September, I would see my total units passed goal here, click on the trophy icon. I'd click add to add my September progress. Remember, I would want to enter in a September date for reporting period purposes. And I would indicate how many more units have been passed. I click on the create button here to get this created. Now I have my second achievement that's been entered for this performance plan. And while you're here, you may want to create your monthly report, even though you don't have to submit it right away if you don't want to. But this is just a good opportunity for us to review how to create those monthly reports. We go to the post award drop down, click on management, go to reporting periods. In order to create my monthly report, I go to the plus sign here in the top right-hand corner. It's going to ask me what type of report I want to create. We want to do achievements for these performance plan related reports. I'll be able to select my time period. So remember, I want to start my September report, and I click on save. And since we have a few days left in September, and I know that I may want to be adding additional information, or I may get to one of these other goals here, I'm not going to close this out just yet. I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'll always be able to come back in, add more progress, and then close it out and submit it when I'm ready. And as I mentioned before, anytime you're in your reporting periods page, you'll be able to see which months have already been submitted by looking at the status feature here and seeing, okay, August has been submitted and closed. September is open. And then when you're ready to go ahead and submit this September report or whichever month's report, going in and clicking on the submit button is going to allow you to do that. So that's how you can accomplish your goals and report those on a monthly basis back to DED. So in addition to submitting monthly performance plan goals, one of the other items that you'll be doing is you'll be doing budget and expense tracking, and you'll be required to submit monthly reports on those as well. So one thing that we can do is we can dive in and we can see how the expense reporting works and how we can begin to create those reports as well. So in order to see my budget, the budget that was approved, we're going to go to the post award section, go to financial, and click on budget. And upon clicking budget here, you'll see whatever is included in your award budget here. If your award and if your budget features any matching costs, then in this options section right here, if you check the match box, you'll be able to see what portion of this is actually matched. So this is a good way to look at your budget and see the breakdown of what the grant funded amount is for each of these items, as well as what your match is for each of these items. And you'll be able to see your amounts total up here as well. Now, one of the requirements of reporting is to submit monthly expense reporting. And again, this is something that'll happen sequentially, where first, in order to submit those reports, First, we actually look at our budget and we enter in our expenses, and then we create the report. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start the process of creating an expense. So in order to create an expense for any one of these items here, there's a couple of different ways I can access the page to create expenses. I can go to post-award, financial, and expenses. That's going to take me to the expense creation page. I can also utilize any one of these dollar sign icons next to the line items. So if I say I'm ready to create my expense for boring, then I can go here and I can click on the dollar sign, and it takes me to this expense page, which allows me to do two things. I can either click run and see a list of any expenses I've already added, which at this point I haven't added any, so there would be nothing. And probably for you as well, there's not going to be anything there. Or it allows me to begin the expense creation process by clicking on the plus sign. So here under all expenses, I locate the plus sign, and this is going to allow me to begin creating expenses. So the first thing that I'm seeing here in my expense creation window that pops up when I click on the plus sign here, it tells me what category and what line item I'm tracking this expense to. You can change that if necessary by selecting the drop-down menu on any one of those categories. Here, you're going to enter the total amount of the expense. And if this expense has match in it, then you're going to put in the total amount that's expensed, including the match amount. And I'll show you where you can kind of break that out later. So let's just get started. I'm going to say $1,000. And what I'm adding in here, there is no match. I don't have any match contributions to report. So I'm just going to click on exclude from match to indicate that. You'll see your name and your username listed here. So whoever's logged in and is adding this, it's going to indicate who that person is and who's creating this. Here on the expense date, you'll be able to indicate the expense date. This is very much like what we looked at on the achievement date, where the impact of the date that we choose here is the report, the monthly report that this rolls into. So if I choose an August date, it's going to roll into my August report. If I choose a September date, it's going to roll into my September report. So let's go ahead and utilize the example of submitting an August report like we did for the achievement. Let's start here, and I'll choose an August date here for my August reporting. I choose the expense date, and also here on the expense status, I want to click the drop down and I want to select reviewed. That's the way that the expense rolls in to our monthly report. So any expense that's listed as new or anything else will not be featured into your monthly report. However, if it's listed as reviewed, it will be in your report. So make sure as you're creating expenses that you're going ahead and you are marking each expense as reviewed. In addition to marking expenses as reviewed, you'll be able to populate a description in here. So if you wanted to add in any notes or any details about the expense that you're reporting, you'll be able to do that here. And then also in your attachments tab, so if we look at our attachments, you'll be required to attach and upload documentation of your expense. So please keep in mind that when you're adding each individual expense, then you'll want to be adding in some proof there of your of the expense itself. So utilize the upload file button here in order to upload a document, upload a receipt, a purchase order, anything that shows proof of the expense. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and click on create. and your expense gets created. So now I have an August expense right here. You'll want to do that for all of your expenses. Let's go ahead and let's create another expense just to get a little bit of practice, but also let's create an expense now where I'm also reporting some match. Remember on my last expense that I created, I checked that box that said exclude from match, and there's no match amount. Now I want to do the opposite, where I want to add in an expense that does have some match. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to create another expense by clicking that plus sign. This is the category and the line item that I'm creating an expense for. And here in my direct costs, I'm going to put in the total amount. So this is going to be the total expense amount plus match. So let's say it's $1,000. Same concept here where I'm choosing the correct expense date based on the monthly report that this is getting rolled into. I'm clicking expense status reviewed to ensure that it rolls into my report. I'm going to leave this exclude from match box unchecked. And now I'm going to go into my financials tab where I'm going to be able to configure and to indicate how much of this $1,000 was matched. So I'm going to go into my financial section and you'll see here that my total expense amount is $1,000. This match section here allows me to indicate how much of that 1,000 was a match contribution, was a match amount. So I can do this either as a dollar amount or a percentage. It's always, if I know what the dollar amount is, it's easier for me to just type in a dollar amount here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the dollar amount section, and I'm going to add, and I'm going to say that $250 is my match amount. And you'll see when I type in that $250, it updates and it breaks it down. And so it says my direct cost, remember that we entered here, was $1,000. But since I went into this financials tab and I said that 250 of that is a match amount, then it adds that here and it breaks it down accordingly. Again, just like every expense, you'll be required to submit your supporting documentation on the expense itself by going to the attachments tab. And once you're all set and you verified that everything is good, then you can go ahead and click on create. Now I can see I have 2 expenses that I've entered in here. A couple of other things that are good to see when you're looking at your expenses. As I mentioned before, you'll be able to see any expenses that you've entered in here. And this is a nice view to look at if you kind of want to get a total picture of all your expenses. You can configure and you can turn these columns on and off by checking these boxes on and off. So, you know, some of this information is not pertinent, but you know what's really important, what I like to see is my category. I always like to see the total budgeted, total expense, and total remaining. So that's just good information to have here, so you have a clear picture of what you're actually adding expenses for and what that impact is. In addition, I mentioned that on your actual grant page itself, you'll be able to see a total number of expenses that you've added in. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my grant by going to the grant management grants page to look at that number. So you are able, I'll circle back to the expense creation and the reporting. You are able to create an expense and not attach a document to it. However, if that is the case, if you create an expense and then submit that report to DED and there's no attached documentation, your report will be rejected and you'll have to attach the receipt to it. So there's nothing stopping you from entering an expense without the attachment at first. But when you submit that report, if there's no attachment there, then your report will be rejected. So as I mentioned, you're able to see your award details page here. And you can scroll through, and as you start entering information like expense information, you'll see that begin to populate here. Expenses to date, match contributions to date. So these dynamic fields are really good for keeping track of some of that information. Since I have a couple of expenses here for August, and I want to submit my my August monthly report, then let's take a look at how we can submit our monthly report. The steps and the process to create that monthly expense report is the same that we already looked at for the achievements. You'll click on your post-award drop-down tab, you'll click on management, and you'll click on reporting periods. I'll be able to see those two achievements reporting periods that we've already created. And now I want to create my expenses reporting period. And in order to create my expenses reporting period, I go through the same process. Icon toolbar, in the top right-hand corner, I click on the plus sign. And here, it's going to ask me, instead of choosing achievements reporting period, I want to enter in my expenses reporting period. So I'm going to check the expenses box. I'm going to select the time frame that I want to create the reporting period for. So as I mentioned before, I want to do an August report. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on save. So this is going to allow me to create my August expenses report. And you'll notice that when I create my August report, again, it tells me the dates for my reporting period. It's going to show me what my total awarded amount is, and it's also going to show me what my total expensed amount is for that period. So this is the sum of all of those expenses that we entered that were reviewed. If you have expenses that you entered that you didn't mark as reviewed, remember how I mentioned that during the expense creation process, marking as reviewed is an important step in terms of getting it to roll into the report. If you didn't mark any expenses as reviewed, it would tell you right here. It would show you the number of unreviewed expenses. You'd be able to click on this number if you had 1 unreviewed expenses, 2, and it would take you right to that expense page where you can see them. As you're scrolling down, you'd see some other information pertaining to your expenses and what you're reporting for this month. And similar to what we did previously, when you're ready to submit your report, your monthly expense report, then you can go ahead and you can click on this close button right here. By clicking on close, this submits that report to DED, and they'll be able to see the expenses that you entered, any documentation that you attached to the expense record, and they'll be able to review it and approve or deny your monthly expense report. So that's the process of being able to add expenses and submit those reports. Submitting the reports is the same process that you're going through for submitting those achievement reports and submitting those expenses reports. Now, there could be a scenario where, let's say I go ahead and let's just use the example that I submitted my August report, and now we're in September, but I realized that I left an expense out, right? I forgot to include an expense from August in my August report. So that's not a big deal. It's actually relatively easy. All you're gonna do is make sure that you do go back and add that expense. So I'm gonna go to our expense page. And we're still gonna add the expense with an August date, But because I already submitted August, it's going to just roll into my September report, which is not a big deal, and is totally acceptable by DED standards. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to create an expense. You know, now it's September 24th, but I want to create another August expense that I forgot about until now. So I can still create it with an August date, but since my August report has been submitted, then it's going to just roll into my September report when I create that. So don't worry if you submit your August report and then maybe you're not aware of an expense or you're not aware of something until a month or even a few days after the report is submitted later. You'll always be able to go back and add the expense and just include it in your next report. So I see I have my August expense here. I'm going to go and create my September report just because I want to show the example that August expense is going to roll into my September timeframe. So I click on expenses, I scroll down to choose September, I click on save, and there's my August expense that I entered. It rolled into my September report. So again, we understand that that there may be a lag in between the time that you can track expenses or that you can keep track of them, or sometimes there's a lot and they just get kind of get lost. You'll be able to submit those, still enter them, and just submit those within the next monthly reporting period. So that's the process for entering and creating expenses, and then submitting those monthly expense reports. So again, it's a process of first creating the expenses, attaching the requisite documentation, marking the expenses as reviewed, then going in your reporting periods, creating the report for that specific month, and then going into that monthly reporting period. And when you're ready to submit it, you'll be able to go ahead and click on the close button to submit this to DED. That's the expense creation and expense monthly reporting process within the system. Now, once you've completed these steps and maybe you're at the point where you've completed 60% of your project and you're ready to also submit reimbursement, then let's talk about the steps that you can take to submit your reimbursement. In order to submit your reimbursement requests in Amplifund, that's going to be called a payment request. So if you go to your post-award drop-down menu, if you go to cash flow, there's an option here for payment requests. You click on the payment requests here, and you'll go into your top right-hand corner to create your payment request. So again, this is when you're ready, when you're at 60% completion, you'll be able to submit your reimbursement request. So here, you'll enter in your payment request name. I'm going to type in, indicate what this is for. Date created, you can add in the date that's created here. Here it's going to ask related reporting periods. So this is literally asking you which of those months that you've already submitted are included in this 60%. And when you go here and when you select the different months, whatever is the expense amount that you've already reported, it automatically totals up here in your payment request. So having those expenses entered and having those monthly reports submitted means that when you're submitting the reimbursement request, all you have to do here is just click on the months that you've already submitted and that you're asking for reimbursement for, and the total expense amount auto-populates in here. There's no additional work that you have to do. You'll have to go in here and type in the total amount that you're actually requesting for reimbursement. You'll be able to add in any comments, attach any documentation, and we're going to go ahead and click on submit, because submitting this, clicking on submit, is actually submitting the reimbursement request to DED so that they can review it. If it gets approved, then they start the payment process on any approved reimbursement request. So when you're requesting the 60%, when you're at 60% completion of your project, then go ahead, click on create this payment request, click on submit. DED will receive an email notification that this has been submitted and that they'll be able to go in and review it. There's also, if you remember, and I'm going to navigate back to the performance plan goal here, there is also a performance plan goal that's called 60% completion. So once you're at 60% of project completion here, make sure that you create an achievement just like we did previously. Go to the plus sign, and we're able to say yes to all. I'm at 60% of project completion. Put in a better note than whatever I just typed in there, and indicate that it's been completed with the date, and click on create. So keep in mind that, regardless of where we are in the project, if it's at 60%, if it's at 70%, the requirements are the monthly reports, both for achievements and for expenses. And remember that we create those reporting periods. And when you're at 60%, you can request reimbursement. When you're at 100%, you can request reimbursement. And make sure that that's being indicated also within your performance plan. And those are all the actions to complete in order to complete reporting. So just to kind of do a little bit of a review before we stop and get into the Q&A portion of this, I just want to remind everyone of the actions that we took today. We talked about, upon logging in, how we could go and create additional users by going into the administration section, going to system security, going to users, adding new users in through here. And remember, it's not just adding them, but then we take that secondary action of inviting them in as well. Once we are sure that all users for our organization have been added, we can look at our award. And on our award page, when we go to Grant Management Grants and click on our award, we're able to see details of our award. I can edit this page, and I can indicate who my recipient grant manager is. To view the budget, I go to Post-Award Financial Budget. If I'm ready to add expenses, I can click on the dollar sign here next to any one of my line items, or I can go to Post-Award Financial and Expenses. To view my performance plan, we go to Post-Award Performance and Performance Plan. I can view the performance goals here. I can click on the trophy icon to add achievements. And then to create and submit those monthly reports, we go to Management, Reporting Periods, click on the plus sign, and add in and submit those reports. And then when you're ready to submit reimbursement, the payment requests are in the post-award menu, cash flow, payment requests, and you'll be able to generate the request for reimbursement, tying in the different months that you've already submitted. And then those expenses automatically roll in. And we're gonna pause briefly now, and we're gonna review any questions that have come in from the chat. Also, if you've been holding questions, this would be a good opportunity to begin to submit those questions. And then we'll do the Q&A. I'll mention some of the additional resources that you'll have at your disposal, and then we'll wrap up our session for today. So we'll start to review any questions that have come in. And also, if you've been holding questions, feel free to go ahead and start submitting those now. I can start answering a couple of the questions that have come in. One that came in earlier, and I just want to make sure that we're all aware of. And you'll see too, once we provide the user guide and some of the follow-up documentation. It's important to note that state of Nebraska has their own unique Amplifund environment. So the way that you'll access your Amplifund account, if it's not via the email, if it's not via the email or anything you've seen on the DED website, is by going to https://ne.amplifund.com. So I also would recommend that you would go ahead and bookmark this page so you have easy access to it. This is state of Nebraska's unique Amplifund URL, ne.amplifund.com. In terms of when we're entering different expenses and there's a partial match on that, I can create another expense example and I can show you some of the different options there. So I'm going to go to post-award, financial, and expenses, and we can start taking a look at what that looks like when I add an expense and I have partial match on it. So I'm going to create an expense here for one of my match items, and if, let's say that I have an expense and it's being matched partially and I want to report that, then I'm going to put the total cost. I'm going to put, you know, the cost that I'm tracking against the grant funded amount and the contribution cost. So let's say that the total amount of the expense is $500 and it's matched 50%. So it's 250 is grant funded and 250 is matched. You can put the total 500 here in the direct cost. And on your financials tab, you can either indicate that that 500 should have a 50% match reflected and type in 50% here. That'll automatically update. Or you can also show it as a dollar amount. It's up to you. It's whatever is easier. You can type in 250 to represent that. So when you have expenses that include match amounts, put the total amount, grant funded plus match, and then in the financials tab, you're able to indicate how much of that total amount is grant funded and how much is matched.
Real quick, this is Nicole Reiner. I was just going to jump in to clarify a couple of things. So for the monthly milestones, which I'm working on, I will include an attachment, which will be Form A that you all submitted to DED prior to getting your grants activated. So basically, Form A is a specific timeline. So the monthly reports, instead of, you know, finger jamming a bunch of stuff into Amplifund or emailing me, all you'll be doing is updating that timeline, and that will be the monthly report. So it'll be a running timeline. Additionally, in the budget portion, which I've kind of had been hands off with, the budgets that are in your accounts, those were directly imported from Form B that you all submitted, which was the itemized, itemized portion of the budget. So the information that is in Amplifund, both Form A and Form B, that was directly inputted from information you all provided us. At any point, if you need to, you know, update Form A, and you can't figure out how to do it or don't know how, you know, let me know, and I can always make edits to that. And then lastly, for the 60%, or actually two more things. For the 60% completion, sorry, you'll see there's an attachment for both 60% completion and project completion. Those two, the attachment you'll have to print off, and whoever the designated community official that endorsed your initial application, whether it was a mayor or a superintendent or a county commissioner, they will have to, you know, verify that you're at that 60% completion, however you defined it. And that will kind of be the second part verification. And that will be required at both 60% complete as part of the requirement to get your second disbursement and project completion. Lastly, the milestone that states units passed, that information and that goal that I have, I think for most people inputted, is based off of your application that said how many households you are going to pass. This is not the number of subscribers you have to pass, because the spirit of this grant was to provide accessibility. So if you pass 100 households, but only 55 decide to subscribe to service, you would still put units passed as 100, because 100 households have the ability, if they want to get connected. If you initially planned to pass 25 households and you pass 50, then, you know, put that in there. More households passed, exceeded initial amount, or passed fewer homes. If you pass fewer homes, I'd ask that you just put a justification in, maybe whether it's you ran out of supplies or whatever that might be. But total units passed, that is at project completion, how many households have the ability to subscribe to service if they want to. It's not based on, who actually does subscribe to service. So I hope that has cleared a little bit of that up. And again, it was based off of, the numbers that you provided in your original application. So pending any questions, I will pass it over.
We still have a few minutes left, so if anyone has questions, feel free to continue to submit those. One thing that I will remind everybody too is that a copy of this recording will be made available. So anyone that you would want to submit these or provide with the training, you'll be able to distribute the recording. There will be user guides and support documentation specific to the actions you have to complete that will be provided as well in order to help anybody as they're going through it. And one other thing that I wanted to mention from a support point of view is that once you're in Amplifund, you have a couple of different ways where you can access Amplifund support. So if you have a lot of technical questions, if you're trying to do something, you forgot how to do it, you need help, then you can always utilize in the top right-hand corner here, the eye icon, and you'll have access to our support site, which has general Amplifund information, not specific to the program, which is going to be, not like the documentation that you'll be seeing, but you'll also be able to submit a support ticket to the Amplifund customer success team. So if you want to submit a support ticket, then fill out this form here with whatever your question is, a description of your question. Our support hours are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time. So feel free to ask any questions that the user guide and the video doesn't answer that are specific to Amplifund. And feel free to submit those support tickets to us at any point.
Is someone going to answer the question about inventory polls?
Yeah, so that falls under the budget portion. I don't see that Jennifer is on here anymore. But that's a question that I'm going to have to pass, to her. So if if any of you have questions that have gone unanswered or that you think of after the fact, shoot me an email with that question, and in all likelihood, if it's related to the budget, I'll have to pass it to Jennifer that helps with the finance, because I'm not sure. Additionally, the question about labor match comes in 10% or below estimated cost. I will defer to the host if they can answer that. If not, again, I can forward those questions to Jennifer to answer, since it doesn't appear that she's logged on anymore, because I'm not smart with the budget portion of this, so I apologize.
When we get the information for the recording and the examples of the user guides, will that also include examples of the kind of backup documentation that you're looking for to support the expenses that we're inputting?
I will defer to the host. Dan?
Yeah, it can. You'll be provided with the recording and with the user guide, so we'll make sure that that's in there for you.
Okay, great, thanks.
And to answer a previous question also about, I don't know a whole lot about the specifics of the budgets, but from a systems point of view, on the labor match question, if it comes in at 10% below the estimated cost, from a systems point of view, that won't cause a problem. You'll be able to still do your reporting and everything. Even if by the time a final expense report is submitted, it's, you know, it comes in at 10% under. From a system point of view, there's not going to be anything that prevents you from submitting that.
So I really hope this was helpful for you guys. This system kind of reminds me of some of the systems that I dealt with in the military, that it really is like a perishable skill. The more you use it, the more you'll become familiar. I'll do anything I can to help answer questions. If I don't know the answer, I'll find out, you know, who can. Additionally, for a lot of you, I will be on travel all next week and half of the following week to a lot of the different sites. So if, at that time, you know, if you know, not just time permits, but technology permits, if I can, you know, see you log on or walk you through anything, I'm happy to do so. I'll be sending out my final trip itinerary hopefully tomorrow. Again, it's a little bit fluid. There's a lot of stuff beyond, you know, my control that might delay or speed up some of the stops. But I'd like to meet with as many of you as possible. And then in all likelihood, in a couple of weeks, I'll be doing another trip to central Nebraska for something separated with the Broadband Task Force. And again, like, I'm more than happy to answer any questions if I can, and if I can't, I'll find out the answer for you. Let's see here. If I was the main person listed on forms A and B, should I be able to log into the site? I think so. What I will say is that not everybody's awards have been activated yet, because we're still waiting on some paperwork and some contracts. Until we get that information, your award won't be activated, so you won't be able to go into Amplifund to do, you know, milestones or achievements or budget stuff. So this is a friendly reminder of anyone that has not submitted all of the paperwork to do so as quickly as possible. Additionally, Joni, thanks for the question about the press release. If I had $1 for every time I am asked that question a day, I would be able to fund my own broadband program. The state has opted to, an announcement will be made. However, until all of the grants have been activated, which includes, you know, contracts being signed, MOUs, all the required paperwork, the state isn't going to be a broad it won't be announced in full, because some of the grants could be up in the air until that paperwork is received. The remaining applicants that still have to submit their information have been given the deadline of the last day of the month, because as you all are very interested, and people throughout Nebraska, you know, the governor's office really wants to make this announcement. It is a really big deal. It's going to impact a lot of people. But until we get all of the grants basically finalized and activated, they're not comfortable making that announcement. But there will be an announcement, and based on the deadline to submit the information of the 30th of September, I'm hoping it will be just a couple of days after that. Hopefully, you know, it'll be while I'm on the road, and everybody will be notified once that has been made. In the meantime, if you are a grant recipient, and you probably are if you're on this call, you know, if you want to make your own announcements based on grants you received, you know, to your communities, we can't stop any of that. Just the state as a whole is not going to make any comments until all of the grants have been activated. Hopefully that answers your guys' questions. And then Dan, I'll have you answer the question about forgot password and have not gotten anything to my email. I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, I reached out to John privately just to remind everybody. It's the URL for your Amplifund account is https://ne.amplifund.com. And if after we get off this, anybody has any questions, or if they're still having issues, like I'm looking into John's right now, but if we get off and anyone still has issues, submit a support ticket. If you can't get into Amplifund, then you can submit a support ticket to by emailing support@amplifund.zendesk.com. So, and I'll put that email address up on the screen for everyone as we wind down, as we wrap up, so everyone can see that in case you didn't get a chance to write that down. So it's support@amplifund.zendesk.com is how you can submit a support ticket. So John, I'm on the case for yours right now. If anyone else has any issues or needs to reach out to Amplifund for help, then please feel free to submit a support ticket, support@amplifund.zendesk.com.
Dan, quick question. This is Nicole again. If for issues such as passwords or what can we handle locally at DED? You know, can we help facilitate that, or does it have to go through the Amplifund help desk?
It doesn't have to. So I'll just kind of describe a couple of scenarios that may help. So when you go to ne.amplifund.com, password reset, you'll click forgot your password. If you haven't received a password reset yet, could be two reasons. One could be that you've never yet registered or logged into Amplifund. So the initial prompt to actually get into Amplifund and log in will come in an email once your award has been activated. And that'll be the way to log in at that point. The second reason why, if you have already logged in and you're trying to do a password reset and you're utilizing this URL and you still haven't received an email reset yet, check your spam folder. The email should be coming from no-reply@gotomygrants.com. Check your spam folder. If you check your spam folder and you know everything's working right, and you're just not getting your email, then the email address may have to be whitelisted by your IT. So if you're having trouble getting in, those are some simple troubleshooting things you can do. You don't necessarily have to reach out to us. DED can handle and has experience in handling a lot of those as well. But if you do want to reach out to us, no worries. We'd be happy to help. I will type in the chat for everybody the email address that password resets and things should be coming from. So if you need to whitelist, or if you need to if you want to be aware of looking through your spam folder for any of that, then it's no-reply@gotomygrants.com. I just chatted it to everybody. And I can also,
Part of the application that when you submitted was banking information, and it was for this purpose. In addition to that, prior to payments being made, the reason the first payment takes a little bit longer, 2 to 3 weeks, is twofold. One, there's a lot of grants going out the door right now, aside from just broadband. Secondly, the finance department has to verify all of the account numbers, routing numbers. As someone that's a part of this group now can attest that some account numbers had to be verified because they were initially coming up as an error. So everything is checked and checked twice to ensure that the payment is going to the right entity. After the initial disbursement has been done, the 60% and the completion should be much quicker, because all of that data has already been verified. But yes, all the payments will be done via direct deposit. I was told that hopefully by the end of this week or early next week, the group that was in the first wave of award activations should see the money hit their account. And when the money does hit your account, if you want to shoot me a quick email just saying that it's there, that would be great. And then I can, re-verify that with our finance people saying, yes, I spoke with X, Y, and Z, and money has been received. As far as reports back in June, for now, if you want to shoot me a private message so I can look up your account and see why something would have been done in June. As of right now, the milestones that I'm putting in for the monthly update, I know a lot of you have been sending me updates already, and that's great, and I put that information in there. The milestones, the first monthly report will be due on September 30th. If it's not done on September 30th, that's not a big deal. I just arbitrarily put in the last day of every month. If it's a week before, if it's a week after, that's fine. Just communicate with me about that. Let's see here. But for the milestones, as far as construction beginning, if that was already passed, and if you passed that part in mid-August, just annotate that. I don't know if it'll let you put in a date, and I'll kind of defer to Dan. I don't know if it'll let you put in a date prior to the current day. If it does not, you can just put in the comments that this milestone or construction or whatever was actually completed mid-August, and this is all just kind of like for the record. So in the event of an audit or something like that, we have it in writing, and it's to protect everybody. So Dan, can you backdate milestones, or do you have to put the current date and then just put something in the description?
It's a really good question. I don't know if you noticed, it'll default to today's date, but you can absolutely use that calendar button and you can backdate it.
So again, this is backdating stuff as far as August monthly updates. We're not requiring that because it's the fault on our end getting everything up and running. However, I would encourage you all for your record, again, paranoid military background, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist, sort of thing. I encourage everybody to put this stuff in Amplifunds so there is record of it, so nothing can come into question later. It won't be dependent on emails sent or received or deleted or whatever. It is in Amplifund for the record. And at any point, if the Department of Treasury or whoever had any questions, we can pull up Amplifund and show them specifically what date something was put in, receipts, etc. You cannot put too much information in. Again, some of you that had awards that were activated earlier on may have either milestones or tasks for June, July, August, etc. Again, we're not requiring by any means that you have to submit those, because it, you know, is administrative stuff on our end that delayed that. If you want to put in the reports, again, for your record, you can do that. Again, I'll be finishing up the milestones today that include that Form A. So if you wanted to include that information on your September update and then, you know, backdate it on Form A, you're encouraged to do so, again, for the record. But nobody will be highlighted as, you know, delinquent or missing information if you didn't submit reports up until now. All right, I will pause for a couple more seconds to see if there's any more questions for me. Otherwise, I'll pass it over to Dan to close this out. Dan, thank you so much. You've been such a tremendous help. You've been very patient with me in this process. And again, thank you again for putting on this training, and thank you all for those of you in attendance. And I'll make sure that the transcripts and the recordings are available to everybody. And I'll discuss with Jennifer the easiest way to make that happen, whether it's going to be, you know, through email, or if we post it on our DED website. I'll have to see what Jennifer wants to do with that. And then Dan, just to make sure, the group chat, I know that it's been requested a transcript of that. That only will be chats to and from the entire group, correct? It won't include any private chats?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, protecting sources.
Yep, no worries. So thanks, Nicole. Thanks, everybody, for hanging in there with us today. I know it was a long session, and it's a lot to digest. But again, the recordings, I think, will help. The specific user guides will help. Also will help kind of identifying these steps that we've talked about today. And, you know, the source documentation that's required, we'll have that outlined clearly within the follow-up. And then just remember, as you're in, and if you're having any issues, you know, reach out, submit a support ticket, support@amplifund.zendesk.com via email, or, you know, within Amplifund itself, you can click on that little eye icon and you can reach out to us. And again, I appreciate everyone's time and everyone's patience today. Congratulations on the award. And again, thanks for your hard work on the projects. And we look forward to speaking with you soon. And just remember, if you have any questions or need to reach out, please feel free to do so. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.